Hello, this is Dr. Robert White, and now I'm going to be presenting Chapter 5 of Kloppenborg Contemporary Project Management, which is leading and managing project teams. You can see in the PMBOK Guide 6E that plan resource management, it's 9.1 there, which includes the RACI and the team charter. It goes into estimating resource activities, acquiring resources, developing the team, managing the team, and then controlling resources. Leading manager project teams. In the overview of the book, we're going to talk about acquiring the project team, developing, managing, relationship building within the core team, managing conflicts, communication, and maybe a little bit of agile. Core objectives are to discuss stages of team development and strategies to move teams through the project lifecycle, describe characteristics of a high-performing team, compare project team decision-making methods and circumstances in which each is likely to be more effective, describe collaborative leadership, empathy, and relationship building in teams, explore ways to utilize project team relationships and ground rules to improve them, discuss types of power and determine which type of power is appropriate for project manager. Describe typical sources of conflicts and how you manage the conflicts. Summarize ways to develop high performance traditional and virtual teams. We may talk about some agile at the end. Okay, so the first step: acquire the project team. So acquiring project team is the process of confirming human resource availability and obtaining the team necessary to complete project assignments. That's pretty straightforward. You can do pre-assignment of project team members, which is include the implementers and planning when possible. More details may be considered. You get greater buy-in enthusiasm. Bringing SMEs on board early, although it's valuable because they can help with some of the early decision making, it might be costly. A PM may also have to negotiate for project team members. If you remember from the last chapter, we talked about the different types of project organizations, from functional to project-centric to matrix. In anything other than a project-centric one, the PM may need to negotiate with the functional manager. So he or she needs to develop a good relationship with those functional managers, right? Uh, they also may need to go to a worker to persuade them to even work on a project. Sometimes needs to sell the person on the project. And then once you actually acquire the team members, you have to onboard them, right? So you onboard them during chartering usually. You got to make sure the members understand the project at a high level, and that gets them to be enthusiastic. If everyone knows the why of why you're doing a project, it makes them more enthusiastic. Okay. And once you've brought the actual team members on, then you have to develop the team. We've talked about this before. These are the 5 stages of team development: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Right. So performing is just when you develop the methods. Storming, you get the stress of the magnitude of the project. There's a little bit of infighting, some arguing, disagreeing. Norming, this is an important step where the leader steps up and helps to set those good norms. And then performing is when you feel close, and adjourning, you feel that loss. It's similar to this plan, do, act, check, or is similar to the forming, storming, norming, performing cycle, right? And the other important thing is that sometimes these can go in cycles. These can go back to forming, especially if like the project manager is replaced or individuals are replaced. But in forming, there's low familiarity. In storming, there starts to be some interdependence, some differences of conflicts. Then in norming, you get empowerment, commitment, team goals. And in performing, you have high mutual trust, high commitment. It's basically a self-managed team at this point. This is when the leader can just back off and let the team perform. You can see a matrix across the top are the different stages of team development. And on the right is the team member relationship issues, what the team members try to do, the PM to promote the organization needs, the PM strategy to promote the project needs. So let's just take a good stage, talk about storming, right? So storming, the team member might feel resistant, yet longing to commit to the projects. They want to be there, they just feel resistant. At that point, they may jockey for power, they may ask questions, they may make some dubious goals. And this is where the PM really needs to step in and develop stakeholder analysis, communication plan, budget and quality plan. And then on the bottom there, the strategies to promote project needs. He's developing the scope, statement of work diagram structure, and everything. So he's doing his early type stuff in the project. Okay. So the stages of project team development, right? So develop project team is the process of improving the competencies, team interaction, overall team environment to enhance project performance. The teams will send sometimes in most stages. Some teams get stalled in early stages. Setbacks can occur if a team goes back, right? Sometimes you have to, right? Sometimes if you feel like you're at the norming stage, but you've got some bad norms, sometimes it's not terrible to push back into storming. Okay. Then the project team charter, you're going to talk about some basic performance issues, some personal behaviors, some desirable norms, expected outcomes, attitudinal expectations. This is going to be all part of the project team charter. Here's some of the correct characteristics of high performing project teams: personal values, behavioral methods, communication methods, project methods, feelings for each other, which lead to personal rewards, and project results. Personal values: high need for achievement, understanding, accepting responsibility, putting the project needs for your own. Team behavior: you've got the right skill mix, you're helping each other, mutual respect, manage and resolve conflicts. Communication methods: sharing information freely and widely, overcoming barriers, frequent debriefings. Project methods: agree on common goals and objectives, jointly plan the project, use the charter to guide decision making, these kinds of behaviors. And then the feelings for the team members, when you know this, is when everyone recognizes interdependence, you show flexibility for how members contribute, and you share in strong project leadership. At the back, with the backside, there are personal rewards, enjoyment of work, high spirit and team morale, pride in being part of the team, recognition and rewards. And then project results. I mean, ultimately, what we're doing this for, why we're building a team, is to actually persevere despite challenges, produce high quality results, and meet or exceed stakeholder expectations. Agile terms, you get some of these characteristics: that they're self-managed, focused on goals, strong communicators, question everything, focused on innovation. And remember, the whole point of the difference between an agile project and traditional project management is the cost of change. And so your behaviors in a low cost of change environment would be focused on innovation and questioning everything, right? Whereas the behaviors in traditional project management is more steady, deliver, no change. So how do you assess individual member capability? You got activity-specific knowledge and skills, personal plan control, personal learning, organizational understanding. Then we're talking about building individual and project team capability. You demonstrate personal leadership, utilize project management tools, teach personal personal responsibility, and use learning cycles. Once again, here's this plan, do, act, check cycle, right? So you can see the plan, using lessons from the previous learning, do, make things happen, check, evaluate approaches, and then act. Okay, now let's go to the next step. We formed the team, we got them together. Now, how do we actually manage the project team? Manage project team is the process of assigning tasks, roles, and responsibilities to all members, tracking team member performance, providing feedback, resolving issues, and coordinating changes. You want to keep tabs on what's happening, take action to get the team back or keep it on track, motivate individuals, improve continually methods of use, etc. So PMs often have less legitimate power than other managers. A lot of this depends on the organizational structure. In a functional type project, or a functional type project organization, they're going to have a lot less legitimate power than other managers. Um, and anything other than a project centric, they're going to have less power. Team members may work for the PM just out of personal desire. Right? Now, this is important, right? So project managers, even though they don't have a lot of legitimate power, there are a lot of powers that the project manager can have. So here you see some of the most common types of power that are recognized in academia, right? So legitimate power is formal authority. I'm the boss. Reward is, if you do this, I'll give you this. Coercive: if you don't do this, then I'm going to do this, right? Reference: based on a personal relationship. We're good friends. I know your family. You know my family. We're good friends. That's referent power. Expert power is, listen to me because I know how to plan projects. I've been doing projects for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. Information's a tricky one. I don't really recommend this one because it can cultivate mistrust. But if the project manager is the one that's going to the sponsor meetings, going to the DRB meetings, he or she is going to have more information power, and that usually can be a large part of their power, is conveying, controlling that information. And then finally, connections, right? Informal connections, based on user relationship with informal people, right? So I'm the project manager. I know the president of the company. I've got that connection. So I use that power to get you to do what I want to do because I know people. Okay, assessing performance in individual project teams, right? So the goals of performance assessments, rewards and promotion, areas for improvement. Assessments can be informal or formal, right? Informal, just asking questions. Informal is the direct manager. So if that's the functional manager, then the PM should give input into the formal manager. So for example, most companies have annual performance reviews, And if I work for a functional manager, then I would expect my project manager would give input into that functional manager for my annual review. Right. So here's some of the project team management outcomes. Right. Morale changes. The PM could improve morale. Sets how much detail is needed. Do we need, milestones, inch stones, whatever. Staff changes could be could be what you do. Training needs, role clarification, all kinds of things that they could do. All right. So let's talk about relationship building within the core team. Project decision making guide. So the sponsor decides when critical decision, large monetary big picture is taken. Right. Skip down a function. The functional manager decides how functional work is done. Core team consensus, buy-in is critical. These are all different people and methods for decision making. Okay, let's talk about conflict. So here's some of the typical sources of project conflicts, right? They can either be relationship sources or task sources, right? So relationship source would be like a lack of communication or different personalities, whereas a task would be like different technical approaches to a task. Yeah. Sources of project conflict, you got constructive conflict, which is like, this could be good, right? Like, how do we proceed, compete for ideas, all this kind of stuff. Whereas negative conflict would be like personal conflict or relationship conflict. Okay, here is a model for a six-step conflict resolution process. Step one, understand the conflict. Step two, agree on conflict resolution goals. Step three, identify causes of conflict. Step four, identify possible solutions. Step five, pick desired conflict solution. And step six, implement chosen solution. I'd say my biggest advice I've ever gotten on conflict management is always focus on the problem and not the person. And as long as all the parties involved are more focused on the problem, you focus on the problem and then you align on final outcomes. And sometimes it takes helicoptering up and up and up to find that common ground. But once you find that common ground, you're not focused on a person, then you can start to work the solution. Okay. Here's some styles for handling project conflict. You got forcing and competing, withdrawing and avoiding, smoothing and accommodating, compromising, or collaborating and problem solving. Right. So you can see when to use these. This is a 2x2 matrix for especially contract conflict management. But this kind of shows if you have a high concern for others or a low concern for yourself, these are the different kinds of styles you would want to choose. Negotiating is about redefining a relationship that's not working or establishing. Project manager is accountable for performance, not people. And you can see the ultimate goal is to negotiate a win-win scenario. So here's the process. First, you want to prepare for negotiation. Second, know your walkaway point. This is an important concept called a BATNA, which is the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. This is a powerful one, right? So the most powerful way of understanding a BATNA is, let's say you want to buy a new car, right? If you have a good car and you're happy with it, you just want a new car, then your BATNA is that you could walk away and have your car. Or let's say you're going and you want to go buy a minivan, and you go to the Honda dealership and they say, okay, we'll sell you this Honda minivan for $30,000. We say, I'm going to go look at the Toyota. Well, you've got a best alternative to negotiated option with agreement with Toyota. So if Toyota can't come to an agreement for the van you want for a price you want, you can always go to the Honda place and get a $30,000 van. Okay, so global and virtual teams. Virtual teams are tough. I think the good news is we all discovered during COVID that we can work with virtual teams. The one thing I'll say is that the other thing we learned is that it's easier to work in virtual teams if you've already built up the trust. It gets a lot tougher. So we had two projects during COVID. My project, we'd been together for over a year. We'd all been working together and some of us have been working together for multiple years. And we built out our culture. We built out our ways of working. And right before COVID, we had a sister project, same scope, same everything that started. But they were only in the office together for a few months before they had to go virtual. And the team dynamics between ours and theirs were just incredibly different. I mean, they had the same technology, same team makeup, same personalities and everything. But our project was just culturally easier to work in virtual teams. Leadership function focuses on motivating, listening, influencing. Yeah. Stakeholders, the project team should seek to understand stakeholder needs. Project teams will have to modify their approach to collaboration style. Right? Planning, project team composition and requisite skill sets are based on the project work. Right? Makes sense. In the predictive planning approach, the project gets involved in planning at a very early stage. And then delivery, right? Project delivery activities concentrate on meeting requirements, specs, and quality outcomes. Remember, quality is about meeting specs. It's not about delivering or delivering something crazy. It's about meeting the specs of the customer. And measure. The project team needs to develop, execute, and measure project performance. They need to prove what they're doing. They need to know what the progress is. They know how much they spent. Uncertainties arise out of political, social, market, environmental factors. But the team needs to consider these factors. That's what makes projects fun and complex. Is there's uncertainty involved. Agile tends to produce generalized specialists who are very good at one thing and able to handle a variety of other things. Team members improve collaboratively. It's all about solving a problem for the client, and they tend to be more self-governed, right? Remember, even their project manager is more of a scrum master. They have collective ownership. They have pair programming. They have two people working. One person developing, another testing. And an important trait of Agile is openness. Okay, so here's three approaches to leadership. These are not just Agile. These are all. So there's transformational leadership. And this is where the opposite of transformational leadership is transactional leadership. Transactional leadership is more focused on the short term. You do this, I give you this. Whereas transformational leadership is how do we create long-term growth and sustainability together. Servant leadership is my favorite, where a leader is first called to serve, and it's their job to serve those around them, which tends to nest very well with transformational leadership. Developmental leadership is frankly very close to transformational leadership. It's just more focused on development. Okay, in summary, new project team members need to be onboarded. PMs use understanding development stages to guide their team to better perform. You got to employ ground rules for improving relationships and processes. Project managers monitor and control the human side of the project. They lack legitimate power unless they're in a projectized organization, and they must rely on other forms of power. They use general conflict reduction strategies. Virtual and global teams make communication more difficult, but not impossible. Consider appropriate communication technologies. And that concludes chapter 5.